Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Tatted Family Man. Am I the a-hole for refusing to wear pants and long-sleeved shirts to pick up my son? 6 weeks ago, my wife, 36, and I, 38, moved across the country with our son, 5, to live in my late grandma's old house that we inherited. We're from Seattle and moved to a town in Texas, and honestly, my wife and I effing hate living here. But it's financially better for us for the time being. Plus, honestly, I am attached to my grandma's house. Now, I have a lot of tattoos, long hair, just a general look that isn't really common here, but was totally normal in Seattle. I've gotten a lot of looks and some crap from people here, which I don't really give an F about, but suffice it to say, my appearance doesn't fit in. So far, my wife had been the one picking up our son and dropping him off at school or daycare because my work schedule was all effed up. But I've settled into the same hours she works, so now we're picking our son up and dropping him off together. I met our son's teacher, late 20s female, earlier today, and I could just tell she was uncomfortable with my appearance from the jump. My wife and I talked to her for a bit about how our son was adjusting to the new school. After talking about that for a bit, his teacher asked me to cover up my tattoos, which would basically require covering up all of my skin below my neck when I come pick him up and drop him off because it was off-putting and apparently tattoos are against the school dress code. I said no, I was clothed, tank tops and shorts, and I'm not a student, so I said I wasn't under their dress code. Besides, none of my tattoos that are visible when I'm clothed to any degree can be considered offensive unless you find the very idea of tattoos offensive. She insisted, which irritated me and my wife, and basically we just told her that I wasn't going to change how I dress and wasn't going to stop picking up my kid. So she and anyone else who had a problem would have to just deal with it. My wife and I think this is totally effing ridiculous, but my mom, who I called her earlier today, said I should just go with it and that I'm being a pain in the ass. OP, in my opinion, absolutely not the a-hole, and your mom telling you to just go with it because you're being a pain in the ass? F that. No, I think you're absolutely right. You're not a student, therefore the dress code does not apply to you, and you're not being at all offensive. Now, if they feel offended by your tattoos, that's a different issue. And the only remedy for an issue like that is get some thicker skin, because guess what? Not everybody is going to do or think what you would want. There's a huge debate about who said the phrase, "Your freedom ends when the freedom of others begin." But regardless of who said it, I just love that phrase because it is so true. And the other day I read a variation. Your freedom doesn't end when other people's feelings begin. And if she feels uncomfortable with your tattoos, that's about as much as she can do, feel uncomfortable. And as they say in Reddit, that is a her problem, not a you problem. So no OP, you're not the a-hole. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. International Texan 71 says, as an educator in Texas, this is ridiculous. That said, some schools have weird dress code rules for parents like no pajamas, no house shoes, no curlers. But requiring long pants and sleeves, I would address this with her admin and the superintendent if necessary because she is way out of line. And OP responds, thanks for that. The dress code was specifically against visible tattoos, but not long pants and sleeves. Do2G says, not the a-hole, but I would keep close tabs on what's going on in school with your kid. Will she treat your kid differently simply because you're not playing ball? But yeah, F 'em. Celestial Honey says, not the a-hole. They're trying to police how you look and that's not their place. It's straight up discrimination. You're not flashing anyone and your tattoos ain't their business. The dress code thing is a lame excuse. It's for kids, not parents. They're just being judgmental and stuck in the past. You're not being a pain in the ass, you're standing your ground. They need to get over their prejudices and focus on teaching your kid. And honestly, I'd be talking to the principal about that teacher. They're way out of line. OP's edit. My wife and I have decided to call the principal of the school on Monday and set up a meeting to see if this policy even actually exists or if you guys are right and it's just the teacher either making crap up or applying teacher-student-parent volunteer rule. We'll keep an eye on how our son is treated by the teacher and his classmates too. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and they're going to call the principal. So let's move on to the update to see how that played out. My wife and I called the front office of our son's school this morning and were able to actually meet with the principal and one of the vice principals right before school let out. So we got to leave work and pick our son up early too, which was really nice. Turns out, those of you who said this was probably the teacher overstepping and not an actual rule were totally right. Apparently, it is against dress code for both the students and teachers to have tattoos, temporary or otherwise. But as long as you're decent, a parent can show up dressed as they like. The meeting went about as well as it could have gone. The principal was pretty avoidant of saying the teacher did anything wrong per se, and did try to pass it off as the results of his teacher's inexperience. However, she did say that the teacher's actions weren't right. So I guess that's something. My wife and I also asked if we could move our son to the other class if he seems unhappy for any reason or if we think the teacher is treating him unfairly. And the principal agreed, so that's also good. I also just wanted to address some of the things that came up multiple times in the comments on the original post. 1. Like I said a couple of times in the comments, we live in a fairly small town. My wife and I actually work in a different and somewhat bigger town than the one we live in, so I didn't give my exact location. Plus, I'm not really familiar with the regions of Texas. Basically, I'm pretty sure Dallas is the closest big city to us, but even Dallas isn't exactly close. I can't speak to how popular my look is in the cities, except Houston. My wife lived there for a year as a teenager and said tattoos were fairly common. However, it's definitely not common where we live. I've seen a couple guys with like 1 or 2 tattoos, but none in color like mine, and none with nearly as many as I have, and none actually in the town we live in either. Not totally relevant, but they've all got full beards too, and I like to keep my face clean shaven. 2. Like I said in my original post, we moved here for a mix of financial and sentimental reasons. Basically, even before we got here, the plan was to not stay for any longer than 3 years, but honestly, we might be moving before the end of this one because my wife and I really despise it here and our son seems so let down every weekend. I didn't really want to get into it, but I had to get surgery to treat my IBD about a year and a half ago, which obviously was costly. Plus, we wanted to save a good amount of money for our son while he's young, so he won't need as much in student loans if he eventually goes to college. And we basically weren't able to afford to live the way we wanted in Seattle anymore. On top of that, to be honest, I am very attached to my grandma's house and I just wasn't able to part with it immediately when she died. My wife and grandma are the only people I've really felt at home with, if that makes any sense. And my grandma's death was unexpected, so I really wasn't prepared to just get rid of her house. My wife, the absolute effing angel that she is, suggested that we move here for a little while just until we know where to settle until our son leaves for college. Maybe we'll get enough when we sell the house that it can be Seattle, maybe we won't. My wife and son mean more to me than anything and everyone else in the world combined, so I don't want them to live in a place they hate. 3. Some of you think that I shouldn't have said anything and should have just complied for fear of my son being treated poorly, but I think that's a super crappy precedent to set and model for our son, and I think it probably wouldn't affect anyone's behavior anyway. Obviously, whether people accept my tats or not doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, but I don't want my son to think that it is okay for other people to tell him to look a certain way because that's what they want or are comfortable with. Nor do I want him to think it's okay to treat others that way. I don't think teaching him to conform is ever a good thing. I also don't think trying to conform actually makes people accept you anymore, but that's just me. Plus, he's 5 and he's already brought cupcakes to school, so I should hope the other 5-year-olds aren't going to have a problem. 4. I thought I was clear in the original post that all of my tattoos that are visible when I'm clothed are not offensive, but apparently I wasn't. I'm not going to show them, obviously, but basically most of the visible ones are of animals, extant and extinct, with some book and movie references too. Even the evolution tattoo I have is mostly not visible with a tank on. I do have some gory and some X-rated tattoos that would be inappropriate for kids to see, but those are all not visible when I'm clothed. I'd need to be in nothing but a Speedo or super short shorts, which I don't wear, for even some of them to be visible, and I'd need to be naked for all of them to be visible. So suffice it to say, there wasn't anything visible that a reasonable person would find offensive. And 5, a lot of you have weird opinions about whether men should wear tank tops at all or not. I think that's just a weird thing to comment on. Honestly, I mean, who cares? I mean, I'm not going to comment on whether men should hold their big belt buckle in public or not. I wasn't wearing a wife beater either. It was a tank top. As long as it feels like summer to me, I'm gonna wear one. Plus, my wife really loves them, so I'm definitely not going to just excise them from my wardrobe. The meeting with our son's teacher was impromptu anyways. If it had been an actual parent-teacher conference, I probably would have gone with a t-shirt, but we just thought it'd be a quick get up, pick up our son, and go occasion. Sorry if that was long. Thanks for the advice, everyone. It was much appreciated. Well, P, in the end, it was just the teacher trying to browbeat you because she felt uncomfortable with your tattoos, and I couldn't agree more with what you've said in point 3. That you don't want to teach your son to think that it's okay for other people to tell him how to look because that's what they want or are comfortable with. And I think that doesn't just apply to appearance. I think it also should apply to how he thinks. I don't think anybody should be browbeaten to think the way somebody else wants them to think. But anyways, you did the right thing. You went and addressed it with the principal, everything was cleared out, and now there shouldn't be any problems. So here's wishing you the best, OP. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now, let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user ThrowArrayAway2454. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister and her neighbor to stop convincing my husband into therapy, otherwise we'll leave? I am 27 female and I have been married to my husband 28 male for the past 3 years. We grew up together and even went to the same school and college. We started dating when we turned 15. My husband and I moved temporarily into my parents' home. My mom is extremely sick, so she asked me to stay with her for a month or two, so I started living with her. My sister, 24 female, lives with my parents and she's being a pain in my butt as well along with their neighbor. This neighbor is very close to my parents and visits every day and spends time with my mom and sister, which I am grateful of, but I don't appreciate how she's butting into my relationship. My husband is a bit rude, or appears as one. He doesn't like people and minds his own business. He's kinda angry all the time, but it doesn't show. He doesn't like talking about it with others except me. He's the type of guy that if a family member needed his help, he'll be the first one to show up. My husband is quiet all the time and only talks to strangers if they initiate conversation. Otherwise, he'll focus on his work. He's a workaholic. But the neighbor keeps trying to talk to him. At first, she would just initiate small talk, which my husband hates, but tolerated. But then, she tried to convince him to go to therapy and said that her cousin is a therapist. My husband refused, but she kept bringing it up every day and tried to convince him. After a few days when he had enough, he told her that he appreciates her concern, but she should stay out of his life as it's none of her concern. My husband told me that he's tired of this and he's only staying with us because I and his mother-in-law asked him, and he doesn't want his mother-in-law to get involved, so either I stop this or he'll go back home. So I told her to stop asking or convincing my husband into therapy or whatever, and she said that she's just trying to help me and my husband. Maybe my husband needs help because the way he's acting is like an abuser, and asked me if I'm okay. Even my sister joined her and said that my husband's behavior is concerning and maybe I should do something about it. I got a bit angry after hearing them and told them that they should stay out of our lives, otherwise we will leave right away and go back to our home. My husband and my stance is that we are here to cheer my mother up, which is why we aren't involving her into this, but if they don't stop, we will leave. Both of them said that they'll stop interfering in my marriage, and I was rude to them when they just wanted to help me. Am I the a-hole? I get they're trying to help me, but who would get this pushy? I don't even know her properly. Forgive me for a long post and for my English. No, OP, of course you're not the a-hole. Why are they butting into your relationship? Did anybody ask for their opinions? Who rattled their cage? No one did. Probably they've got nothing going on in their lives that they feel the need to tell other people how to live. Now, in my opinion, they shouldn't have said anything at all, not even from the start. But considering they did after the first time and you guys shut them down, that's when they should have at least picked up on the clue that their opinion wasn't warranted and should have stopped, but they didn't. So I guess I would give them one last warning, and if it doesn't stop, I'm leaving. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Mermaid2 says, not the a-hole. Tell the neighbor and possibly sister something like this. I think you should go to therapy. You expressed your opinion and insist on pushing until you get your way. You don't respect our boundaries and are grossly overstepping. You're also adversely affecting our mother's well-being by attacking and alienating her family who wants to care for her. Get over yourself. Just because your cousin is a therapist doesn't mean you get to diagnose and harass other people. Ordinary Ticket 834 says, if you and your husband are happy, the story is over. If they cannot honor this reasonable request you made, it's time to go. Not the a-hole. I will add that if you guys are there to cheer up your mother, he doesn't sound the type. And such says, you also don't want to get therapy from someone connected to your social circle. Unethical suggestion on neighbor's part. Well, the majority of the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, that they should either shut them down or just leave. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. So, 3 days ago, after I made the post, I decided to send my husband back home. He was concerned about what my mom would think and whether it would hurt her. I told him that I'd deal with my mom and my sister and join him. I stayed with my mom for 2 extra days, tending and supporting her, but today, I told her that I'm going back home and I'll visit her every other day if possible, every day. My mom quickly caught on and she said first my husband left and now I am also leaving. She asked me if everything is okay. I told her everything is okay and we are just leaving because of work-related stuff. I lied because we don't want to stress my mom because of sibling drama. When my sister came to know about this, she asked me if I'm leaving because of what she and their neighbor said. I was honest with her and told her, yes, I can't stay in a place where my husband is not respected, so it's best if we leave. She said she respects my husband, but his behavior is not normal and they were concerned about my safety and my husband might need therapy, the usual blah blah. I said, I appreciate her concern, but constantly telling someone to go for therapy and implying that something is wrong with them is borderline harassment. And I should have put a stop to it instead of letting my husband tolerate this. She tried to stop me again and told me that I don't have to leave. I told her that I am leaving and going back to my husband. I'll visit as often as possible, but I didn't expect that we would experience so much drama just for helping my mom. So now I'm back in my home with my husband, and I wish I could have stayed with my mom a bit longer, but my sister and her neighbor screwed it all up for us. Even if by chance my husband is abusive, even then she has no right to harass my husband with therapy as it's none of her business. I'm kinda angry, I'm not gonna lie. And about my husband, if he himself wants to seek therapy, then I'll support him. But if I ask him to go to therapy after 2 idiots forced it down his throat, he'll think that even I don't believe in him and there's something wrong with him. It's not like I have known my husband only for a few years. I have known him since childhood and I feel much safer with him than without, because I know he would do anything he can to keep me safe. He's not like other men who cheat or abuse and other stuff. I understand my husband is not normal like what is believed by the vast majority, but I trust his abnormal as. As I said, I've known my husband since childhood and calling him abusive or asking me if I'm okay is highly offensive for our marriage. If I ask my husband to seek therapy, he'll do it for me. But if he doesn't want, then I don't think I should force him, right? He treats me like a queen and does everything I ask of him. So, as his wife, I should do my best to defend him and help him as much as I can. Well, OP, I think you did the right thing. You're standing by your husband, who you clearly know much better than anybody else. And the bottom line is that you respect him, you feel safe with him, and you like how he treats you. So here's wishing you and your husband the best, OP. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.